Okay. The two vehicle practitioner capabilities are limited. So we have no great resolve. They have no great resolve intent or vows. For in cause and effect, they practice for their own benefit and carefully keep the precepts. They take no joy in a great dharma of one vehicle ongoing among the people. They fear suffering in the fight their destinies and see upholding the form of truth and links as sufficient. I think the main emphasis for this initial verse is that I really want to emphasize is actually the last one. They fear suffering in the five destinies. I think if you look at the stages of enlightenment, at the small vehicle, which is not arahathood, and that in itself is actually a state of enlightenment. So I always question myself as to if this is indeed the case for someone who has already reached that level of attainment, of spiritual attainment, why is it they are still being afflicted by not taking joy in the great Dharma? Okay, obviously for one is they don't think they could at that time, they didn't understand it well. I think that one it can be understood. But this is the part that they fear suffering in the five destinies, that when they come back, they can get afflicted by what's happening in the samsaric world. And that's quite a daunting thought. Especially, I guess it's like I said yesterday, is like you're being vaccinated, but you know that you're not being protected. You can still get infected. And that's very much what the similar message or feeling is about. So most of the disciples had stopped at having the capabilities of two vehicles. They wanted to learn the Buddha's way, but their practice focused on understanding the law of karma. And that is to purify themselves. They knew that the feelings of emotion, of love, hate, passion, and enmity in relationship could give rise to many afflictions. And which is also the reason why that if you notice that when I say my contemplation with you, I always have one-on-one relationships. And that's the one that can actually throw us off balance, or rather easily throw us off balance in our cultivation. So they are fearful of cause and effect. This is why small vehicle practitioners wanted to isolate themselves from sentient beings and thereby benefiting themselves. I think the part about it is, yes, they do benefit themselves. I think the fear of going among sentient beings, that's the one they get worried, they get contaminated, much they have actually cleared the afflictions. So, and the arising of desire and emotion, and I guess for them, they have got rid of the desire part of it, but the emotion part of it, we never know when it can arise. So the fear of returning to the world to face 84,000 afflictions and could carelessly give rise to an ignorant thought. And this ignorant thought can easily arise from a slip of an emotion. And they do not aspire to go among people. And Master went on to say that in the introductory chapter, it said, we were born by Manjushri and Maitreya already told us that spiritual cultivation takes a very long time. So it takes a very long time, much that we undertake to hold this aspirational vow with us. Do we then have you ever wondered, do you have, or do I have this condition to be able to practice and be able to uphold that, continue to uphold that particular vow? And then what is it that I need to do not to slip into my practice in the future? So all Buddhas share the same path, and Master said they continuous return again and again, especially serving the Buddhas as a bodhisattvas. So the Buddha was aware that the capabilities were not suitable, so he gave proportionate teachings and slowly ceased transforming with the great Dharma. And this was after the Avatamsaka Sutra, which the Buddha delivered. And so that's the reason why after 21, the first period teaching on 21 days, I went on to teach Agama during the Agama period, to teach about the Four Noble Truth. And even then, the Agama period on the Four Noble Truth was first turn of the view, and which primarily focused on the law of cause and effect, and that took 12 years. So the lessons learned: although everyone has the potential to attain Buddhahood, wisdom equal to the Buddha, and the ability to help others, these capabilities were weak and limited. The aspiration they form were weak. This is the part that I bold this up, because I think it's not about not having, or it's not never had that aspiration, but having to uphold the aspiration lifetime after lifetime. So I asked myself, I uphold this aspiration this life. Would I slip in my next? I don't know. But there's something I can do in the future. But what is it that I need to do now in this lifetime, so that is sealed in my heart that in the next life it goes into my consciousness and to my continuum. That's the reason why very often I've shared with you all, unless one is able to cultivate right into the higher level of consciousness, that aspiration may not be well upheld and deep-rooted. So those who limit their capabilities only they seek to resolve cessation of samsara causes and effects, and which only to themselves. They think they will not return to samsara because they have already been enlightened, and they deliver themselves. They can deliver themselves from this samsara raging currents, and they are frightening. So they focus on awakening themselves and delivering themselves from samsara, and they do not deliver others. It's like, I guess it's like saving themselves from a burning house and having to rush into the burning house to save them. So engaging in spiritual practice through the small vehicle Dharma is binding the principle of emptiness. And that's the part about, obviously, for the small vehicle practitioners. But then we, looking back at chapter 3, the analogy of the burning house. So, and the Buddha knew that the children were in the burning house, but the door was narrow. But the analogy is, when I ask myself this question, is, did the Buddha rush in to deliver those in the burning house? That's not the case. So he used the Dharma and the skillful means of teaching the Dharma to get them out. So it's not rushing the burning house to deliver them, but inspiring them to deliver themselves, or to rush out. So therefore, if that is that analogy, then how we then walk on the bodhisattva path without getting afflicted? And that's the profound question that we have to ask. So the Buddha Dharma is profound. So understanding it is difficult. So we must make the effort to be grounded and mindful in our spiritual practice, since we have aspired to learn the Buddha's way, to move forward, attaining Buddhahood. This is only possible through the bodhisattva path. So when we cultivate, deliver sentient beings, and obviously what this whole chapter is about, then the question is, how do we go about, and obviously upholding the aspiration of one, but the question is, how do we then going in to deliver? And I think that's a bigger question. So in contemplation, the selfless nature in everyone has the potential to eventually realize the innate enlightenment in the nature of true suchness. And that is what the bodhisattva path is about, is to realize the selfless nature. And the selfless nature is the one that which is the non-self. And then we can realize the nature of true suchness, which is the true self. But even to attain the selfless nature, we must first purify the heart. Number 2, we need to clarify the mind. So the heart that we need to purify? Is that to purify the state of a compassionate heart and a mind of clarity? Is that of nobility that we need to attain before the selfless nature can blossom? So the innate enlightenment is that of the absolute truth. And this is what Master said in the earlier teachings. And to realize that that's one with the universe. So seek for the innate nature of the true subject which is within us. So it's not that we're seeking outside, but what is it that we got to cultivate to remove the incrustation so that innate nature within us can be realized. So although people have limited capabilities like a poor son, they still abide in the Dharma. Um, and it's just that fear that needs to be removed. So if one diligently evolves on the path, one day one will be able to unlock the innate potential, which is what the Master said in the introductory chapter in the Manjusri and Maitreya, and a discussion that it took many lifetimes. So therefore, this deep rooting in our aspiration is very key to this, because otherwise, one lifetime we slip off without the aspiration. And we got to, that's why Master say, you walk 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And that aspiration have to be really deep rooted. So in relationship, beautiful relationship. See, a beautiful face will age and a perfect body will wither. But isn't it true that people spend a lot of time beautifying the face and looking at the body with a body weight, making it well shaped? But all this, however you fight against nature, they will age and they will wither. But we will also understand that a beautiful being will always be a beautiful being. So that is one that we ask ourselves, but what is our inner self that we need to cultivate? So we express completely your being to the universe, then keep quiet. But the expressing your being to the universe, and most of the so that's why I mentioned before that spiritual developed people they bite in silence, and that's what they tend to keep quiet. But the problem is we don't understand the light silence. So when we don't understand the silence, we don't understand the words. So be with nature. When it blows, there's only wind. When it rains, there's only rain. And when the clouds pass, the sun shines through. Life is just, life is. And that's where the consciousness that we need to grow up. But the problem is when it rains, we see more than rain. When the wind blows, we feel more than the wind. And that's why that emotion can arouse. And that is why phenomena is the manifestation of the mind. So let the way nature is, and we can realize that emptiness of what phenomena is. So that you are just a passerby. But because so many interpretations of my life, but yet we're only here for a moment. Okay, thank you, Kanan brothers and sisters.
Yeah, truly mesmerizing. Intoxicated with Brother Yun Kyung's wonderful words of wisdom. Inspiring. Yeah, thank you so much, brother. Okay, let us